A while back, it's come to my attention that Jolyne Kujo is actually one of the least liked Jojos. And upon finding this out, I, being the man of the world that I am, asked the question, her? There's no way. It simply can't be. This woman? Girl, there is no way. And I repeated this to myself 6 times until it finally hit me. I realized why. It's because compared to all the Jojos, Jolyne has the smallest chest. My dear Lukies, today we're talking about Jolyne Kujo, and in order to make right in the world, I need to talk about one of the most underrated JoJo's protagonists, and say why she is in fact one of the best. So I welcome you to JoJo, but with cooties. In parentheses, ew. And as always, we start with, who is Jolyne Kujo? Starting off very strong, Jolyne is a blind queen. And this is simply because I did not want to write this in the presentation, but I will say it right now. She's the only JoJo's protagonist who is canonically masturbated. And when making this presentation, I of course googled Jolyne masturbation scene. If you are an anime or manga fan, just know that if you Google that, you do not necessarily get only anime and manga. Whoops. Talk about making a statement right off rip. Now, she's also a Florida woman. Yes, JoJo's adventures are known for being bizarre, but in Jolyne's case, we can omit the bizarre adventure part and just say JoJo's Florida adventure. She's also just straight up a better version of Jotaro, in my opinion. We will go into this in more detail, but I've said before that Jotaro, while he is the iconic JoJo, is by no means my favorite, and I think that there's a lot of writing issues with JoJo. Yes, he's cool. Yes, he's a badass. But no, there's not a chance he's the best JoJo. She's also the second smartest JoJo, only next to the GOAT, Joseph Joestar, who somehow managed to defeat the ultimate life form with nothing but a volcano and missing a hand. Of course, I could talk about the JoJo who I most remind you of for ages, but this is a video about Jolyne, and I want to mention in regards to her intelligence, her stand is incredibly creative. They did not give her a star platinum. They did not give her a crazy diamond that can break through walls or break through prison bars right off the bat. Everything that she does is due to her intelligence and creativity, and her stand is the literal coolest because it has shades. We're going to talk about this in more detail as well. This is just the introductory slide, but having a stand like this that is so creative and having a protagonist that is in fact not the strongest in their part, chef's kiss. Unfortunately, she does have dubious taste in men. Yes, she ended up actually being with Anasui or Anakiss, who was a non-consensual king. And she ended up being with the trust fund, baby. Typical women. Am I right, dude? Gold diggers everywhere. Can't escape them. And she's one of the best female shonen characters. Perhaps the best. When I was thinking about making this video, I first asked myself, is that too strong a statement to make? And then I realized, no, not at all. We're talking about Shonen Jump. The writers hate women. And she has the best character development out of all the JoJos. At the very least, all the OG JoJos. So I hope you're immediately getting the sense that Jolyne's a little dubious. She starts off as a brat who masturbates in prison and ends up managing to contend with some of the most popular shonen characters of all time, in terms of writing, and especially in terms of development. Now let's talk about what Jolyne has done in universe. Now the first thing we see her do is be framed for being loyal. SMH, my head. I mean, if it happens to Jolyne, it'll happen to you. I mean, talk about ride or dies, dude. Jolyne is the definition. She goes to her boyfriend of what? I think it's 3 months, and is willing to help hide a body. The one mistake she made, however, was trusting this guy. You cannot fucking tell me that you think this guy is gonna bail you out of jail. Saul Goodman? Perhaps. But this guy? Jolyne's fault. Now, in typical fantasy story wave hand fashion, she picks up a rock and immediately cuts herself. Yes, you can argue this is the fate of the Joestars. But I feel like this happens in JoJo so often that someone picks up like the smallest artifact ever and then fucking gashes their hand open and then ends up with a reality warping stand. Jolyne, my girl. Like Bucciarati, she actually uses her stand. I mentioned in my part 5 JoJo video that Bucciarati is a super compelling character in part because he uses his stand incredibly creatively and actually uses fisticuffs. Jolyne is right there with him. Especially in the manga when you can see what Stone Free is doing. Oh my god. Thank you, Jolyne, for not only putting your body on the line, putting your stand on the line, but using it in ways that people would never expect. For instance, the Mobius strip goes fucking crazy, dude. When I saw this, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little like, Poochie, what is that? Is this actually happening for real? The explanation was a little hand-wavy, but I can deal with it. Because Jolyne is that bitch. 100%. Shout out Lizzo. All I'm saying is that there's a huge difference between using your stand in creative ways like warping a bullet, doing the Mobius strips, protecting yourself from frogs, making a web so you can walk on water, and saying Zawarudo and using fucking finger guns into people's buttholes. Now, she also made BFFs with the Plankton. FF, goated ass character. Out of everyone other than Jolyne, best character in part 6. Now, a person with far lower morals than I would use FF in her woman body, but no, like Magneto, I want to see the real Raven, the beautiful FF. And like Tesla, she could have been inside a pigeon. Unfortunately, this never happened, but I can make that joke because I am a Balkan boy. Thank you, Tesla. Gotta say that when I saw Gwess turn her small and put her into a rat outfit, oh my god, if I was Jolyne, I would so quickly off myself. Like, you do not trust Gwess removing the internal organs, cleaning that thing, and now you're just in the blood and shit of a dead mouse. Miss me with that. She also had a college seminar-length lecture mid-fight. This was incredibly funny to me when they were in the warehouse trying to find who Poochie was. Weather Report and Jolyne. I both read and watched part 6, and it was so funny to me both times when Jolyne and Weather Report were going back about the most niche scientific principles you can ever imagine, and knowing so much about them, dude. It's like they had PhDs before coming to prison. The barometric pressure, the blood dilution, the air atmospheric current when the cyclone. It's like, dog, holy fuck, Weather Report. You're missing your memories? Are you sure, my guy? And this just speaks to Jolyne's intelligence as well, because unlike Weather Report, who has the stand, Jolyne was just like, yeah, I totally understand. Now, like me, she fought a baby, and I don't blame her. Look what the baby looks like. And also like me, she fought a priest. I mean, I don't blame her. Look what the priest looks like. He's got weird hair. What did you think I was gonna say? This isn't a video about Poochie, obviously, but Araki does such a good job making you hate Poochie and making you root for Jolyne so much against him. Now, she also rips a toenail off cartel style. I removed the image here. I'm about to show it, so if you're queasy, look away. My guy, god fucking damn. And people have the audacity to say least badass JoJo? Hell no. This is maybe the most gruesome thing we've ever seen in JoJo's. She also sets herself on fire. She is a fucking badass. Not to mention, she dies! And saves a kid in the process, who she doesn't even know is gonna save the universe in one way. I mean, everything about her that she did in part 6 was badass. And if you haven't seen this manga panel before, take a closer look. She doesn't die, dude. She fucking dies. She gets run through by Poochie on some WikiLeaks shit. So to circle back to the point of the video, we ask ourselves what makes Jolyne great, and it's of course her character development. Unlike a lot of the JoJos, she actually has to earn her stripes and badassery. Outside of Johnny from part 7, her growth arc is by far the biggest out of all the JoJos, and this is something you want to see in the writing of a relatively long-running series. And she doesn't only become more badass and more muscular and a better fighter, she becomes more noble. All in all, she just becomes a better version of her father because unlike her father, she shows her emotions and is vulnerable, adds depth to the character in a way that Jotaro just never had. Am I a little bit of a Jotaro hater? Yes. But that's because I'm a little jealous. What's not to be jealous of? The man is a literal trapezoid. But back to his daughter, she's a tragic character who ends up losing to fate. And in losing to fate, she still shows us that in an unwinnable situation, you should still not be hopeless. Oh my base, dude. I want to stand up. Fuck a Poochie, dude. And he didn't even do it. A stupid ass kid beat him. Goddamn. I mean, look how badass she became. She pierced her belly button. As soon as I see a belly button piercing, I'm like, oh my god, this is legit. Too much for me. Too legit for me. Aesthetically badass. And even though she got plowed through by Poochie in a way that I did not see when I typed in Jolyne masturbation scene, she still had the most badass ending for any JoJo. It genuinely shakes you. Whether you like the end of part 6 or dislike it, you cannot deny that it made you evoke some emotions that you were not expecting to see. It was so badass. And now we move on to talking about Mega Jolyne, where we talk about why people dislike Jolyne or why you might dislike Jolyne. Her biggest issue is that part 6 had a fair few issues, starting with the release schedule on Netflix. Add it to the list of things that Netflix has fucked up. This is one of my biggest pet peeves when a show is releasing to begin with. Why don't you either serialize it per week or just drop it all in one batch? It makes no sense to make 2 cliffhangers in part 6's case and make people wait for it. The animation was in a lot of times. The manga does a lot better job showing what's actually going on, and there was a long ass time spent in solitary. This is where she pierced her belly button. So there are definitely some pacing issues with part 6, but what I think was great about the solitary confinement thing is that it was ironic that these prisoners actually treated her better than Shonen Jump fans. Now, her group was also not Omega bonded. This is pretty tough, especially coming after part 5 and part 4 where the groups were super tight-knit, and it was the part before Steel Ball Run. That's a toughie. I don't know what you think Gyro is doing here, but it's actually him looking ahead of part 6, immediately trying to get to part 7, which a lot of readers did. Now, she also didn't land the final blow. This is an issue a lot of people have. This is fucking invalid. Does your main character really always need to defeat the main villain? Hell no. That's not how stories work. Media literacy, tube, does not go hand in hand. And last but certainly least, that's just a joke. Is it because she's a woman? Yes. Likely. Like we've said, Shonen Jump fans, man. Double sad Jolyne. What can I say? It sounds like I'm virtue signaling here. So in order to distance myself from that fact, let me say something else. Like, oh, of course Jolyne lost. Stupid woman. She fought a man. A priest at that. The jokes write themselves. So in conclusion, what can we say about Jolyne Kujo? She is unfortunately very strongly tied to part 6. So if you dislike part 6, I highly recommend you take a look at her from a character and writing perspective outside of the part 6 narrative as a whole. She's the culmination of her predecessors. She is cool, she is smart, she is badass, she's powerful in will. Everything that the Jojos have culminates to end the Jojo's Bizarre Adventure saga with Jolyne. Incredibly importantly, Booba, dude. She is a woman, and she knocks it out of the ballpark. And I included this picture because this is how I feel when I see my Shonen Jump manga with a female protagonist. I'm so ready. Which editor let this slide? Araki was on one while writing her. Character arc, character development, her moments, her creativity fights. Araki. He comes into himself by the end of part 6, like I said, and then he gives a Steel Ball Run. What a story. Look at her, man, she's so cool. And not only that, but she is most similar to Jonathan's nobility. We had 4 parts after Jonathan that did not match up to this nobility, and then Jolyne comes, and being the based girl that she is, matches her nobility and same self-sacrifice in order to beat the ultimate villain, Dio. It's just so cool. One might even say, it is the perfect ending to the original saga. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Jolyne PR team, anti-Jolyne PR team, let me know, what do you think about JoJo's Part 6? What do you think about the protagonist? Were my takes L's? Were they W's? Perhaps, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts below. I really do think she's a very special character, even outside of Part 6 not being my favorite part, but it is what it is. If you have any suggestions for future videos, any characters to cover, series to cover, games to play, real-world things to do, any fun things to rank, let me know in the comments down below as well, because everything I do for you. Go check out other videos on the channel. We have a whole library of variety content. Stuff like this, and stuff that is much more random because the internet is supposed to be fun, and we're building a community. Go check out the other links in the description, and until next time, I love you, and goodbye.